moving on to Pakistan's competitiveness in global trade. There was an export boom during the early years of the Musharraf regime, and subsequently we've seen that subside somewhat, maybe as part of the global economic recession. There must be other reasons too. What factors do you think would contribute going forward to Pakistan's increased competitiveness in global markets?
I'll mention two things that I think you should do, and one thing that I wish the United States should do. Two things, first of all, for Pakistan to do. You've got to diversify your customer base. The vast majority of your exports are sent to a very small number of countries, the United States being one of those countries. I think if you really want to build a truly vibrant export sector, you've got to expand into new markets, and those markets where you now have a limited toehold, you need to expand in those markets as well. The second thing you need to do is expand your exports. You rely heavily now on textiles, clothing, leather goods, sporting goods. They are all low value added products, and there's only a limited number of markets for this limited number of goods. So if you really are serious about expanding the potential of your export market, then you really got to diversify your product line.
In your mind, the consideration that goes into U.S. trade policy with regards to quotas, are these based on political considerations?
Absolutely.
Or protectionism?
Sure, no,
domestically?
I mean, it's all political. This won't be surprising to people in Pakistan because they're consumed with politics too.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, a relatively small number of states with strong textile interests have succeeded in blocking action in the U.S. Congress to be more liberal in our treatment of goods sent to the United States from Pakistan. People here fear loss of American jobs, and for other reasons, but it's all political. And what it really needs is strong executive branch leadership, as well as a willingness on the part of American leaders to define American interests in terms of helping Pakistanis export more goods.
In terms of education reform, or the lack of educational facilities in general, it can be said by many, both in Pakistan and here, that the current political situation in some of the provinces that we face has a lot to do with the lack of education. Now, the Woodrow Wilson Center, again, produced a publication back in 2005. We're in 2009 now, and I doubt very much has been done in the last 4 years. Where do you see the problem as it exists today?
Well, I mean, your point about very little action in the last 4 years is exactly right. And here again, we're not telling Pakistanis anything they don't already know. Any parent in Pakistan is concerned about the quality of education that his or her son or daughter is receiving. Pakistan is simply not preparing its youth of today, who are going to be the productive workforce not many years down the road, is not preparing this youth to compete in the 21st century. So you're now laying the groundwork for a continuation of the same problems you face today: underdevelopment, widespread poverty, inadequate health care, stunted lives, and it goes on and on and on. So, and here again, there's a widespread agreement as to what needs to be done, but it doesn't get done. For instance, everybody in Pakistan knows that lots and lots of school teachers are being paid, but they never show up to teach. You have ghost schools, you have ghost teachers. If there were expectation on the part, not simply the Pakistan government, but of Pakistani parents, if your job is to educate my child, then I not simply expect you to do it, I demand that you do it. And if the teacher refuses to do so, get rid of that teacher. Your viewers know far better than I the magnitude and the extent of the problem. But what bothers me as much as anything else is people simply are complacent. They don't demand of their leaders that something be done about this, and they're gambling with the future not only of their country, but of their own children.
Pakistan is a country where I think in one of the recent surveys I read, less than 2% of government revenue is allocated to education, which again begs the question, and I wonder if those in appropriate positions in America tell this to their counterparts in Pakistan. We are spending our money on just about everything else to do with the military, less important things than education, definitely not healthcare. Why do you think it is that the political leadership in Pakistan ignores the education sector?
Because the Pakistani people have not demanded that they focus on it. There's been very little demand over a period of decades on the part of the Pakistani voter for accountability. You send someone to Islamabad, or you send someone to Karachi or Lahore or the other provincial capitals. They fail to deliver the goods, and you send them back. Or you vote them out, and then 3 or 4 or 5 years later, you send them back. You vote them back in. There's really been very little expectation on the part of the Pakistani voter that if I entrust you in these positions of responsibility, then I'm going to hold you accountable. And if you fail to deliver, then I'm not going to send you back. I'm going to get someone else to do the job. So I think the bottom line, and to answer your question, is the Pakistani people haven't demanded that their leaders get serious on education or energy or any of these other issues. And so long as the Pakistani people don't demand that their leadership is serious about these, the leaders have very little incentive to be so.
Mr. Hathaway, I appreciate your candor. Viewers, we'll be back after a short break.